Hey guys, welcome back to the Ghost and Friends YouTube channel. Joined by my main man Drew TAMU. How we doing, Drew?
Doing great, man. And well. It's finally game week. Here we are.
Kind of remember the first feeling of, hey, it's gonna happen again. Back way in July of 2021 when the news first broke that Texas would be going to the SEC along with Oklahoma, of course. And yeah, man, I think this first comment says it well. Fired
Yeah.
up. It's finally here. It kind of never felt like it would get here, but then again, the season has played out so quickly. It feels like, just yesterday, Drew, I think the first time we paired up was maybe the Florida game, the first week of the Florida game or around then maybe.
Yeah.
And that feels, just like a week or so ago.
Yeah.
So, I'll even post ad comments on here. I'll be nice. It's Monday, we'll see what it looks like closer to the game.
Yeah.
So, Drew, just a couple, once again, thanks for doing this, brother, but a couple of rivalry questions for you. I know that you're a little bit younger than I, so I do have a couple of questions for you. When you think of this rivalry, what is your earliest memory of on-field player? Like what's the first memory you have when it comes to these two teams meeting on the field?
The earliest memory I think it's probably Stephen McGee. I remember Colt McCoy. I was young and I didn't get into college football till a little bit later. So I really wasn't deeply into the ins and outs of the players. But I mean, I remember this rivalry my whole childhood. It's always been around.
Mhm.
It's always been something I loosely followed. But again, I didn't get into the sport until I became an Aggies when I really got hardcore into the players and everything involved with that. But as far as feeling the presence of this game, understanding the rivalry, I mean, my dad's a UT grad. My mom, she's from College Station, so very aware of it, but never really into the weeds of it until it was too late. Until things got taken away from us, unfortunately.
Right.
But obviously, being an Aggie and just existing in this world, I felt the presence of this rivalry in a big way as long as I've been an Aggie. So, yeah, to tell you my earliest memory, I don't think I can pinpoint a play or an instance where I remember the rivalry because, again, got into it pretty late, but it's always been there.
Yeah, no doubt. When you say your dad graduated from Texas, your mom's from College Station, you're kind of born into the rivalry already. You didn't necessarily have to be knee deep in college football for you to, understand that there's a
Exactly.
little bit of substance to it.
Mm.
Do you think that from now that you're involved in college football, you have a voice in college football? Um, do you think that our rivalry is underrated on a national landscape?
Oh, man, that's a good question because if it is, it's understandable, right? Because it's been gone. So I would understand there's a generation of football fans who aren't aware of it, but I don't think it's underrated in these parts, man. I think everyone in Texas, everyone from the South, like Big 12 country, now SEC country, I think a certain part of the country is, I think rates it fairly appropriately. But from a national scale, yeah, I would say the Iron Bowl gets a little bit more love because we see it every year. I would say the game, Michigan, Ohio State, gets a little bit more love. Red River rivalry has been happening. I would say some of those get more attention because, I mean, a lot of people have short memories, and those are games that they're enjoying and taking part in every year. But I think when they see this weekend in Kyle Field, one of the top teams in the country coming to town against a very, desperate and hungry A&M fighting for an SEC championship spot, I think they're be made very well aware of exactly what this rivalry is all about. And of course, it's in that top tier of games that I just mentioned, and I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's going to be really, really high on the list. I think that a lot of people have forgotten about the toxicity that is involved in this rivalry. Other
Yeah.
than, we've seen it on Twitter, but I'm talking about just people forget how intense it is. Kind of obviously one of the more anything goes type rivalries. Some really bad Texas teams would beat A&M and vice versa. And so I definitely agree with you, man. It's high up there. I don't know if it's underrated. I wanted you to answer that question for me. I kind of see how we feel about it. And so I build it up in my head, and then I see other teams talk about it. A lot of people crying about game day coming to for a 10-1 Texas and a 8-3 A&M. Like I thought that's well deserving of a game day, considering you guys are still fighting for a playoff spot. Texas is where it's at. Winner gets a berth to Atlanta. I was just confused. I saw a little bit of hatred for the rivalry, and I had to ask. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we could both be in worse spots and we could still deserve a college game day for it. I think it's that big. I think people who have followed the sport over the years understand what this game coming back is. I mean, I'm a little bit young to have kind of been aware during the, when this rivalry was at its core, at its best back in the day, but I think a lot of people that know the game, this is a really important part of their lives because this game was typically on when a lot of other games weren't, either on Thanksgiving night or Friday after Thanksgiving. And I think this is a game a lot of people just stop to watch. And I think it's a game a lot of people have a core memory of because of that, the time slot alone, but also just the animosity in the game itself. And it's a battle for, I think, the best football state in the country, at least arguably, definitely. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I think people who have followed the sport a long time are happy to put this one in the forefront this week. I've been listening to a few talking heads this week. Sounds like a lot of people are excited for this game, even though A&M's coming off of a loss, and I don't really know how to feel about that. It's weird, but I think people get that, and I think the general population might not, but I think people who are in this sport do.
yeah, no, I agree. The ball knowers, they know what type of game's going to play out Saturday. As far as it's going to be an elite environment, atmosphere. All the fun things about Kyle Field will come to life, and maybe even more so than ever. A lot of talk about this potentially being one of the biggest games that Texas A&M has ever played in. Now, from the realist standpoint, you could make that case, kind of for the last few weeks as well and moving forward. But hey, it's a little different with Texas. And one thing I will say about the underrated part of it is I think that I'm not you in particular, Drew. Ball, but some of the students that have missed this game and didn't have to see it for the last decade, and some students that haven't seen it while they're currently students. Yeah, you get the annual, volleyball matchup and baseball matchup and like softball plays, ran into each other, but it's nothing like football. Like, and it's once they're there at Kyle Field, some of those younger Aggie students and maybe some grads that didn't have the luxury of seeing these two teams play out. I think they're going to be wild, man. It's going to be special. And so, talking to Billy Lucci, he mentioned literally like the who's who of college football. Everybody's trying to get into Kyle Field. Everybody wants to be there. So yeah, going back to your point, the people that really love and understand, know the game, they definitely know what's going down Saturday. When you think about this rivalry, Drew, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it Twitter? Is it mom and dad, the Texas and College Station? What comes to your head?
It's pretty sad that it's probably freaking Twitter, man. I mean, the amount of faceless Longhorn profiles who have just, I mean, shat on us for years, just to put it lightly. I mean, I can't count it. I can't count. It's just, it's constant trolling, and it works both ways. I'm on this side. I'm sure y'all get it too. It's like I'll be talking ball with Notre Dame people, and I'll have Texas fans pop up in my mentions, and I don't see that from a lot of other fan bases. It's a special rivalry in that regard, where both sides are always present in the other person's lives, and Twitter, obviously, in my world, is what brings us kind of together. Yeah, it might actually be Twitter. Might be the first thing that comes to mind. Some of the trolls that obviously you want to get the upper hand on. But let's take that animosity we're seeing online, and now it's happening on the field. And I think a lot of that stuff is very real. I think there are very real bragging rights in this game. And there's very real pride in this game. And I think this animosity or that shit talk back and forth comes from a very, very real place. And, obviously A&M, Texas is in our fight song. We're briefly in your fight song. I think we're made well aware of each other constantly. And yeah, I think it's just going to spill onto a football field. I think it's going to spill into the stadium. I think it's going to spill into the Twitterverse while the game's happening. I think everyone's going to be talking about it and noticing it. And I'm really, really glad it's in the forefront. And I do think students, because of the internet, are very aware of what this rivalry means, at least in that regard. But I think it's going to be obviously taken to another level once they see how this game is on the field. It's going to be fiery. It's going to be chippy. We have some bulletin board stuff already coming up from some A&M pressers today. I don't know if you saw this stuff. Trey Zune talking a little bit.
Of course.
And I'm like, yeah, that's usually a thing. But I don't know how much harder you're going to be going in this game than you already were. I think your
Right.
juices are already maximum flow for this one. So yeah, Trey Zune maybe got a little bit loose there, but it's like, man, I think Anthony Hill's coming no matter what. I think Trey Zune's coming no matter what. I think everyone is going full tilt in this game. But I guess I have a question for you along those lines. Is anything taken out of this game for you, being that, your ticket is mostly punched already with the way the SEC is shaken out? The way it's very likely you lose this game, you're still in. You might even still have a home field advantage after losing this game just because of other players dropping off. Does that take any luster away from this game for you?
It doesn't take any of the luster off of this game for me because I don't want to sit here and listen to the, like you just mentioned, the faceless A&M
Yeah,
accounts that
we
will
have them.
inevitably. I'm one of the nicest guys on Twitter, and I still get bombarded when Texas struggles on a football field, even in a
Yeah.
close game, by people that would never say anything like that to my face. Obviously, you with those arms, and I'm not going to say it from my side to you either. But I just I don't want to have to deal with that, man. I really don't. That's not number one priority. I always want to be Texas A&M. I'm married to an Aggie. I don't. I'm working in College Station for the next 5.5 weeks. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to go out and look at maroon and have to put my burnt orange away for those 5 weeks because we lost a game Saturday.
Yeah.
Bragging rights are important. I want it for the guys. I want it for the team. But, so no luster has been taken away from myself. Now, I will say thank you. I will say thank you to Alabama and to Ole Miss and to
You're
Auburn.
thanking the losers.
Um,
Thanks to the losers out there.
I was unable to do the work. And that's, guys, I apologize. I want to do daily content, and I will be back to it soon as I get back to New Braunfels. But I had no luck watching any ball Saturday. Nothing
Yeah.
past like 2 p.m. Not one single play of the Texas game. I've rewatched it several times since. No luck watching ball at all until maybe like 10 p.m., which luckily for me, you guys were still playing. But I
Yeah.
was like, okay, wow, Alabama got smoked. Ole Miss obviously lost, which they were in a battle by the time that I was had to turn that one off rather, and so I knew it was a possibility. But wow, what a day of college football if you're a Texas Longhorn fan. So no luster taken away, but I still owed some thanks to a few programs because it definitely benefited us the way things played out on the field.
I appreciate and I love how you said thank you, Alabama, and you just couldn't bring yourself to saying thank you, OU. I really appreciate that. You can't thank a rival.
Drew, I went on a radio show Saturday morning, and these guys called me crazy because I told them that Oklahoma. I put on the time. See, I'm a coward. I backed out a little bit. All week long, I'm sitting here thinking like Oklahoma is really has the ability to make Alabama struggle a little bit offensively.
Yeah.
Very, very active. Throws a lot of multiple looks at you. Jalen Milroe is, I love the kid. He's been inconsistent through times, as a passer. But if they
Mhm.
can take away the legs, take away the Alabama run game, I think Venables will do a decent job of that. I'm thinking I like this. I get to my score predictions and I post 30-20 Bama, and I was like, right after that, I commented and I was like, this is where I posted. I don't know if you saw it, but I've said I've convinced myself that Oklahoma is going to make Alabama sweat
Mm.
a lot, and
Yeah.
so I'm playing both sides of it right there,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I
yeah.
hated. But then I go on Saturday and I give a radio interview where I say that I liked Oklahoma in that game. I thought they really had a shot. They called me crazy. Well, they didn't call me crazy outright, but you could tell by the reaction they thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
And so it felt good to be right. I just hate that it's by the hands of Oklahoma. I think they should move on from Brent Venables, and for those guys to get a win like that, I don't think they'll be doing so. I think that they'll go ahead and ride that out. And I will say this: no hate on Brent Venables. I know he's got a lot going on at home. Things that are much more important than football. But
100%.
yeah, I mean, this year, Drew. I mean, and like we talked about this maybe earlier in the year. I know I've talked about with other guests. It's crazy how much bigger the Texas and Texas A&M game is than the Texas and Oklahoma game.
Mm.
Massive difference in what those games mean on the national scale. Thank you for checking in, Sooner Mac. I missed you, brother. I didn't even see this comment until now. We were just talking about your guys. What you have is 2 ranked wins against both teams. If you get one more, you'll equal the same number of points you scored in Dallas at the fairgrounds. So just get one more in there. You got LSU; they're still ranked, right? Y'all can do that. I actually think y'all probably hang with them, to be honest with you. Guys, thank you all for being in the comments. If y'all would throw a quick like on this video for Drew, he does a fantastic job on his channel over there, covering Texas A&M football. Always fun to listen to him talk about it. I chime in. You got to know your enemies, man. I chime in or I tune in every now and then.
Yep.
But give him a like, give him a follow, subscribe. All the things. He's on Twitter everywhere all the time, having a good time on Twitter. Drew has fun on Twitter. I'll give him that.
I do have fun. I try to keep it respectful, but I do think I
do.
ruffle your feathers. I think I ruffle your feathers every now and then. I think
No.
I feel like I've done my work whenever I get Ghost to chime in, and it's always like, it's okay. Drew means well, but he says things that are crazy sometimes. It's always a little. It's always a little. That's just Drew. I do have fun.
You're just baiting a little at times, and it's fun, man. And the things that you're saying are not. You're never like theoretically incorrect. You know, like you dance around it very well and do a good job. And I do the same at times. So it's just game recognizing game. You know,
yeah.
I get those same type of comments from Aggies and Sooners that I respect all the time. And so
yeah, and I know when I rip one off, I know it's like, okay, this one's gonna be. I'm getting shit here. I know when it happens, and I'm sure you do too when you were throwing a little bit of the worm out there. But hey, since we had an OU fan drop in here, and since we talked about the OU Bama game. I'm sorry, Barnes. Barnes is a follower of my channel. He's my Bama follower. He's always supportive. Appreciate you, Barnes. Sorry we had to talk about the game right here, right now, when you weren't anticipating that. But Ghost, question for you. A lot of Texas fans have told me that A&M is very much a secondary rival to the school and that OU is the true rival for Texas. Where do you sit on that spectrum? Is there any truth to that? Do you look at that as the biggest rivalry? The Red River rivalry is the biggest game of the year, or do you think that this battle for Texas is the real deal, or do you not look at it that way? Do you think they're all just great rivalries in their own right?
Oh man, so that's fair. I like the last thing that you said because I was really I was going to go with the gut answer. The gut answer last time I was asked this question on this channel got me in a lot of trouble. I ruffled some
really?
feathers. Not really, but a couple of feathers.
Don't say Baylor.
Baylor? Like as a bigger rival? No.
Just messing with you.
No. That's my least favorite program. Which you would think would mean the rivalry would mean more, but I'm not going to give them credit for a couple of wins under Art Briles.
Yeah.
It's always been Oklahoma for me, Drew, but I will tell you why. I grow up, first time I can remember Texas football is 1995 and going to a game at Floyd Casey. And I think I was, 7 years old. And so I liked Baylor in the beginning until my dad was quickly like, no, dude, this is just a football game. You don't have to like the team or anything. We're just like, we have a team we like, but it's not going to be this one. And so
we don't like Baylor, son. We don't like them.
I mean, but it was like cheap to go to Floyd Casey. You could bring a Dr. Pepper can. They'd let you into the stadium, and there would be about 12,000 people in there, and they would mostly be the opponent's team or fans. But so I get into Texas football. You know, the point is mid to late 90s. Okay, by the time I'm like old enough to like know what the hell is going on and understand the game and the nuances of the game, in which I got into it a lot. I mean, from a very early age. By that time, Bob Stoops had showed up in Norman, Oklahoma. Okay, I watched Ricky beat A&M. Okay, I watched that game. I watched him when they did the Heisman pose against Mississippi State in the Cotton Bowl that year. I watched some of the '99 season. Like I have vague memories of all of that. I can remember like almost play for play the '96 Big 12 championship game for whatever reason. But so fast forward to 2000, like this is when I can almost tell you like game for game, score for score. I have a weird memory, man. I can almost tell you score for score dating back to a long time ago. They beat us 63-14 in 2000. Okay, then they turned around and they beat us 14-3 in 2001 with the famous Teddy Lehman play. 35-24 in 03, 65-13 04. And so those 5 losses right there, buddy, I mean, like, they hurt. Sorry, 65-13 in 03, 12-0 in 04. We got shot out with Ben Chung at quarterback. And so those scores, man, like that hurt a lot. Now, at the same time, Drew, I don't know if you remember this, but Texas blew A&M out in 2000. They blew A&M out in 2001. They blew it. It was a closer game. 02 was a blowout. Point is we didn't lose to A&M in that time period. And so when I was really developing like emotional connections to these rivalries and these games, I hated Oklahoma with like every fiber of my being. I
Yeah.
grew up in East Texas. I had a lot of Aggie friends, a lot of Aggie family, still do. And so it's to me, it's more of the like brother versus brother, maybe brother versus brother-in-law that you just don't, you just won't really want to have those bragging rights. You're going to see them a few times a year. You're going to see them often, whatever it is. You see them at work. That's more of the Texas Aggie rivalry. For me in Oklahoma, it's pure hatred. Like I despise
Yeah.
Oklahoma. Many good Oklahoma friends and fans. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to that team on the football field, can't stand them. They come into our state. They take our recruits out of North Texas, the DFW area, and then go around screaming Sooner Magic, and like it just bothers me. It really does.
Yeah.
But for A&M and Texas, not that I want to prefer to lose to you guys or anything of that nature. It's just I don't know. It's more of a playful, fun type of rivalry, unless you're on Twitter, because it gets pretty toxic and nasty out there, and there's a lot of fire thrown around, blood spewing on a daily
Yeah.
basis. And with that being said, Drew, the Twitter Cold War is almost over. We're finally about to really get back to it. You're going to have one fan base that's going to have to really kind of chill out for a little while at least, as far as all the trash talking goes. And the coping, the excuses, the both sides pointing at the officials, that's inevitable. That's going to happen.
Hmm.
I can't wait for all of it, bud.
Yeah. It's coming right up, man, and that's all going to happen. And yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. That's a really good explanation. I mean, you grew up hating them.
I
Texas
like
versus
this.
Texas A&M involves family. Your friends and family have people on both sides. OU is just a bunch of dirty Sooners. That makes a lot of sense. I understand what you're saying there. Yeah, obviously I have Texas family, and as much as I want to see them lose, I don't want to see them in pain, or I don't want to see them suffer. Just maybe for a couple of days after one single loss, that would be fine. But I totally get what you're saying. Plus, you're married to an Aggie, so it all makes total sense, and it's fair. And I'm not gonna you know, have a big fuss or have a big fit. Oh no, Texas, you should hate us more. I don't really want to get into that. So that's totally fair, totally fair. And I mean, it's a great
Take it
game. Most years, not this year, it wasn't. 49-0 wasn't great, but usually it is.
right. And I mean, you should take it as a compliment, in my opinion, that I hate them more. I mean, why would you want to be like hated more? I mean, you can. That
Exactly.
doesn't mean like I said, it's not that I want to lose to you any less. Like, don't get me twisted on
Sure.
that. It's just that the coping will be a little bit easier. Obviously for me, when I married into a little bit of the Aggie world, Aggie family, all the in-laws are Aggies. Like it would just be easier. And again, Sooner Mac, if you're still listening, it's not disrespect towards you. You're one of the good Sooners I'm talking about. It's just Bob Stoops pissed me off. Okay, taking running the score up a couple of different instances. Drew got a part of that too. They beat Oklahoma or A&M 77-0. And I mean,
There it
to
is.
be fair, he didn't score in the fourth, but they ran the score up on Texas multiple times. Then he posts big pictures, or takes big pictures in front of the scoreboard with his team, which is standard. I get it, but he's using it as a recruiting tactic, and he's got it posted in his office right behind his desk. Hey, kudos to him. He beat our ass, but I didn't have to like it, okay, and I still don't. So let me ask you this, Drew. When it comes to this rivalry and any other rivalry, I feel like we always have that one player, maybe it's a coach, that is on the opposition that you somehow grow to respect, maybe even like and or love a little bit. Is there one of those guys for the Texas Longhorns?
I mean, not current coach, but I mean, I respect Mac Brown. I respect him being a class act. I respect a lot of how he goes about his business. It's hard not to like a guy like Mac Brown. And with Sark, yeah, I mean, I like a lot about what Sark does and how he operates. I just think he happens to coach the wrong team, and I've said that a long time. That's what I always tell my dad. I mean, I respect Sark. I think he's an offensive weapon in himself, and he can get you a lot of productivity just in what he does if he has the players that are willing to do what he does. So, yeah, I mean, and I'm a weird person. I don't really hate anybody. I don't really hate any team. LSU is the closest thing, but I don't really hate anything, any coach, any players. I hate the back and forth between, the mouth breathers. That's what I hate. So whichever team I'm getting more of that from at the time is the team I'm going to hate. So I don't think I've ever really hated an opposing coach. Really, it's hard for me to think of a coach I really just didn't like that rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah, man. It's not like I have a love affair with these guys. I mean, I don't love Mac Brown. I don't love Sark, but I respect a lot of what they do. It's really hard to get into the position that they're in, and I respect the journey that they've gone on. You're asking the wrong guy. You're baiting the wrong. You're trying to get the wrong guy to say some fiery stuff. But I'm not that kind of person. I'm really weird in that regard.
Oh no, I'm not trying to get any baiter. I have several Aggies and Sooners both that I like, that I respect. I thought the Mac answer, I thought if that was your only answer, I was going to say that's a bit of a cop out, slightly, just because he's well respected by everyone. It's like inevitable that like I feel like anybody is like, yeah, Mac seems to be like a great guy, except for the guy in the timeline yesterday who was like ripping Mac up and down. Some random Tar Heel fan said
Oh
that
yeah,
Mac had the one lucky 2005 season, did nothing else. That's
yeah.
why I posted the Texans had 110 wins in that decade. But no, it wasn't baiting whatsoever, man.
No, no, no. I know. Yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. Someone's saying Tom Herman. I didn't have enough hands-on experience with Tom Herman to hate him. I think Texas fans probably dislike that guy more than I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not about what Tom Herman did on the football field. That has very, very little to do with it, to be honest with you. And I'll leave it at
Yeah,
that. But
that's fair.
yeah, no, I just had to know, man. For me, if I'm looking at Oklahoma, I loved Adrian Peterson. Had the luxury of meeting him when I was in high school. East Texas guy, also grew up 40 miles down the road from me.
Yeah,
Naturally, it's like I don't want that guy to go off, and I hated that he chose Oklahoma, but I didn't want him to like go struggle and be a bum at OU.
yeah,
I do like that he was 1-2 against Texas. Don't get me wrong. I
that's nice. Yeah,
was very happy when he struggled. He did run for 244 his freshman year, though, for what it's worth.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
for A&M, though, like I had Reggie McNeil on the show. Reggie McNeil is by far my favorite Aggie. That also an East Texas guy, a little kid, watched him play at Lufkin a couple times, and I was like, wow, this dude is sick. And so naturally, he goes to A&M, and it was like, oh, he beat. I told Reggie this too. I was like, he beat Oklahoma. We can't beat Oklahoma right now. Back in 2003, and I
yeah.
was like, that's my guy. And so, yeah, obviously not rooting for them when they play Texas at one time a year, but I always have a few of them.
I guess I'll throw Colt McCoy out there. I mean, one of the best career backup quarterbacks in recent history, right? Just made a career being a backup in the NFL, but you got to go for the underdog, right? 3-star Tuscola, Texas. I think that's the only time I ever hear of
Jim Ned, yeah,
the
the
city he's
Scola,
from.
the Scola Jim Ned, or whatever the high school is. I guess it's
Yeah, 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 and he said some really good things about College Station and A&M as a program and Kyle Field recently in his retirement interview stuff, and I respected that. That was nice to hear. So, yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot that you could get into talking about stuff you don't like about other programs, but usually with the people, 9 out of 10 times, it's really hard to rub me the wrong way unless you're, there's some blatant disrespect. Is there anything I don't know about that I should know about? Anyone I should not feel so good about that you're aware of?
on the Texas side.
Yeah.
Um, no, not. I mean, like
I don't think anyone's really gotten personal or nasty or disrespectful in that way towards A&M. Maybe the chat can help us out there.
as
But
far as like ex players or current players, coaches.
yeah, anything in recent history
Well, I
that would
mean,
be in my time.
outside of Ty Anthony and Ant Hill flipping, I mean, like that's you never know what those relationships are like as far as the players and commits,
Yeah.
as far as because I'm sure obviously Ant was an Aggie commit for several months, and Ty Anthony was committed for a while, and so you never know what those relationships are like and how they worked out post flip, and so those type of things could come into play. Absolutely, I mean it's going to be like you said very early in the show. It's going to be chippy. It's going to be heated. There's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
Probably take the over on personal foul penalties, but let's hope for our team's sakes we play smart, clean football. I mean, at least one side of us, but
Yeah.
on the
Yeah,
other,
and you know what? We just got done dealing with one of those decommits in Cam Coleman, and he gave us the business. So
yeah.
got to go with another one. Ant Hill's obviously going to be front and center against us in this one. So yeah, hoping that doesn't get repeated again this week. There's a good chance it does because he's a really good player.
And that's the thing. Ant Hill is going to have a lot of responsibility in this game, and we'll get into a little more into what we'll see this Saturday on the field in just a moment. But Ant Hill's going to have a big job this weekend, containing Marcel Reed, and it's not something you do every time. They're going to trade some battles there. He's a really good player. Makes a lot of people miss.
Yeah.
We'll see what Texas does. It's going to be a team effort, no doubt. But Anthony Hill will have to be a massive part of Texas' plan on Saturday if they end up winning that game. Guys, once again, thanks for being here. Got a lot of you guys hanging out in the chat. Throw a quick like on the video. Sub to this channel, Ghost and Friends, if you haven't already. Also, sub to everything that Drew does. He's a legend. And it makes me kind of sad he thought he ruffled my feathers. Just having fun, man. I love your account. You're awesome. I had to have Drew on here. It's a great way to kick off the Texas and A&M week. For you those that don't know, later on tonight we're gonna have Leon O'Neal Jr., noted Texas Longhorn Twitter hater, noted Texas Longhorn football hater, and but I think it's hilarious. We're gonna let him get on here and fire some things off. We'll say that. And so y'all tune in later. You Aggies that are in here, all you guys supporting Drew, y'all do a great job. It's fun seeing his chat all the time pop up. So I don't know, maybe a quarter of these guys. So thanks for bringing them all over.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. I see a bunch of you guys in there. I appreciate y'all being here. Support Ghost, man. He's on the other side of things. That's okay. He gives us our credit. He gives us our love. He's a very fair, even-keeled Longhorn. Y'all are safe here.
What's that? We try to keep it real. I get a lot of flack from the Texas side about being too nice to you guys, being too nice to Oklahoma. But then again, if things are not looking great, I promise I'm going to be very, very honest about it. And you can ask the OU fans this year because I've had a lot of fun at their expense. And so,
Yeah.
A&M fans, if you can survive the times where I post the Longhorn duck gif with the little cigarette in his mouth, kind of laughing at your struggles, that's about as nasty as I'll get. That's about the most trash talk that you'll hear from me. And it's truly just a duck's fault, man. It's just so cool. I had to post it. But let me tell you this. Tonight will be fun. It's been fun with Drew so far. Let's talk about the Saturday, buddy. What concerns you? We're going to do both sides of this coin here, of course. What concerns you about Texas on the football field this Saturday? You know, go as long as you want. If it's a really short answer, buddy, I won't be offended, okay? I'm expecting a war.
Yeah. What concerns me about Texas? Well, I guess I should start with the fact that I'm concerned about us in a lot of ways. I mean, our last two SEC games haven't gone exactly to plan, as I'm sure you're very well aware of. I'm concerned about our defense, which for the entire year has been what we're supposed to hold our hats on. And it was for a good portion of the year. And we felt like we were taking very positive trends defensively over the first half of the year. And all of a sudden, it seems like we maybe have peaked and are going back down that hill a little bit. And I feel like we're going up against the wrong offense for that to be happening right now. So it's a combination of the fact that, you know, maybe Texas's offense hasn't been performing to their absolute potential on the year, but they were always scary. They always had weapons. They always had a veteran quarterback. They always had one of the best offensive lines in the country. And we were confident that maybe over the last few weeks, as we were watching Texas maybe not be as explosive offensively as you might have thought going into the year, that maybe we can, you know, keep them that way this game. But now, seeing what we're working with, seeing, you know, our pass rush getting there versus South Carolina, but not be able to get people on the ground, that was one thing. Versus Auburn, we didn't really get as much pressure in the game. So it got a little bit worse in the game. And we also had some tackling problems in the game. So I would say that our defensive, I guess, regression at this point, because there's a trend now, comboed with your offensive upside, is probably my biggest concern, because this is a game that I was very excited to see the chess moves between Elko and Sark. And right now there's something not clicking with our defense. And I'm sure Sark has a good game plan coming up and our defense will have to be at its best. And it's just not trending in the direction to where you would say, okay, A&M's defense will be at its best in the biggest game of the year with everything on the line. So that's probably my number one concern. I mean, that whole side of the ball, our ability to get a pass rush on Quinn was something I was really banking on. And now I'm not sure how confident I am in that. I think there's a good chance they can find it, and I think they can manufacture pressure. And I think Quinn, coming off of an ankle, was it, and being pretty statuesque in the second half of that last game, bodes pretty well for our chances there. But we can get blocked right now. We can straight up just be blocked right now. And, you know, Quinn has had good games in big, maybe I don't know if they're bigger spots, but very big spots and on the road as well. So I would say, as far as my concerns, that dynamic right there, ability to get a pass rush on Quinn, and our secondary has also regressed a little bit, also has some nagging injuries. That whole side of the ball, where I was really excited about it, and I still am in a lot of ways, it's become a bit of a concern. What would you make of all of that I was just kind of going through?
Oh, I think it's really well said, man. To me, the concerns I have, what's your pass rush? You know, even when you guys give up 44 in Columbia, South Carolina, you know what I'm thinking about the whole time, Drew? And I'm being very, very honest here. And I don't want this to sound like a knock on Quinn Ewers, but I'm watching Lenore and the Lenore Sellers shake off pass rusher after pass rusher,
Yeah,
Rocket Sanders shake off linebacker after linebacker after edge, you know, and I was like, we don't have the offense to do that. We don't. No offense, Quinn is not that type of cat. Quinn
for
hits you
sure.
in different ways. Jaden Blue, Quintravion Wisner, and this Wisner has been incredible. Like he's just not going to make you miss the way that Rocket Sanders does from like the physicality standpoint. He's more of a just try to shake you out of your shoes.
Yep.
Um, but he still runs very physically as well. It's just normally not the way Rocket is. And so I love what Trey has done on the field this year. But that was a concern for me, man. Even in that game, like y'all so often were in the backfield and you just weren't making the plays. And it's a matter of, okay, just tightening that up a little bit. And so, yeah, going back and rewatching it, which has only been a very quick rewatch of the Auburn game, I'm shocked to see that. Now, a lot of Texas talking heads lately have made some claims about your secondary, have thought that there's some room there to attack you guys, and that could be the kryptonite. And so to see that play happen with Peyton Thorne, I was definitely surprised. Cam Coleman, obviously, as you mentioned, had the big game, the couple touchdowns, over 120. But to me, man, it's an anything goes thing, Drew. So every time I get confident about the matchup, because I do like our defense a lot, I do think our defense is national title capable. I still have to take in the account of Kyle Field and of what this is going to mean to have this game back, and it's just going to be different, man. Maybe I don't know if it's been a fatigue thing, an effort thing, what the reasons for the defensive lapses that you guys have had under Elko. But with one, Elko being the coach that he is, and two, the type of setting that we're about to have at Kyle Field Saturday night, it's hard to envision, you guys just not putting forth your best effort as well.
Yeah, and if I'm thinking about the A&M positive side of things, it's exactly what you're mentioning. It's the fact that it's in Kyle Field. There is evidence to suggest that A&M plays better at home both this season and over the last 3 years. I mean, we've won 2 road games in the last 3 years, and they were against Florida and Mississippi State this year. A lot of those same players are still on the team. There's reason to believe this is a really bad road team that doesn't perform the same on the road as it does in the confines of Kyle Field. That's there too. Um, and yeah, just the crowd environment, having to take your Quinn Ewers led offense on the road in a very hostile environment, that all does bode really well for A&M. It's just unfortunate that you are trending the wrong way this time of year. Now, do I have faith that Elko can, find the pieces and make it work and revitalize this defense and get it to look how it did against LSU, who also has a pretty good O-line in their own right? Yeah, there's definitely hope there. It's just the fact is you're coming off of a very negative trend. You have to break the trend in the most consequential game of the year for A&M. So, yeah, there's definitely a level of optimism on that. You're coming home. You've played better at home all year. That's kind of what we're looking at to get the switch to flip. And yeah, Elko's a great defensive mind. He brings pressures in a lot of creative ways, in a lot of unusual ways that you don't see, maybe on the previous game tape. He switches it up a lot. He mixes things up a lot. I guess I would ask you, how do you feel about the chess match between Sark and Elko? How do you think that that's going to play out? Because like I said, we got pressure versus South Carolina, but that wasn't quite there versus Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Thanks for asking that one. I like to talk about this a lot, to be honest. Rodrigo's comment here, it's great in my opinion. But at the same time, I don't think you can just sit around with 4 and let Sarkisian know exactly what your looks are going to be and what you're doing. And especially because if you don't get there, your secondary has been susceptible to giving up the big play this year. And so you're going to have to mix it up. And so that's a good comment, Rodrigo. But I do think y'all do need to mix it up a great deal, which Mike Oko will do. We've seen it. Drew knows what he's talking about. Very multiple and where he brings his blitzes from. We'll do it with just about anybody. He's not afraid to drop linemen into coverage. Never are things going to be the way they seem, or very, very rarely. And so, yeah, I think it'll be a fantastic chess match. I really do. Sark is very, creative. Obviously, we've all seen that. Several of his plays have just kind of blown the internet up this year. And for Texas is, I know we'll try a couple of things again. And Elko will try a couple of things on defense, a couple maybe exotic things. Texas will do the same on offense. Who makes the most of these wrinkles that they throw at you? You can't run a wrinkle and then get smoked, on defense.
Mhm.
You can't run a wrinkle on offense and then turn the football over. And so it's going to be a chess match. I think we'll see both teams kind of put everything on the line because, as you just said, Drew, Texas is in the college football playoff. And I don't care if a couple of these SEC teams that lost last week would have won. Texas was always going to get in off brand, even at 10-2. I haven't been worried about that truthfully for a couple of weeks. But back to the point, we'll see. Both teams are going to do everything they can. It means so much more than just one regular season game. Obviously, A&M this is a playoff game for Texas A&M. You
Mhm.
will do everything and anything you can to win this. Recruiting is the lifeblood of your program. You're going to see all types of things in this game. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait to see how A&M plays Texas's screen game. Do they sit back, try to rally and just tackle, or they kind of try to get aggressive and blow it up? We've seen a lot of teams try a lot of different things this year. With A&M, I expect a lot of aggression. I expect them to try to bring everything to Texas, almost try to. Somebody mentioned earlier in the comments, Texas hopping on teams early, trying to have fast starts. Been pretty good at that under Steve Sarkisian. I think it'd benefit A&M a lot if they can get out of that first half, maybe that first quarter, even without letting Script Sark, strike a couple of times.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, I haven't done a full deep dive into Texas yet, but I've obviously been paying fairly close attention all year. It seems like you're at your best when you're able to get into your deception, when you're able to get a bunch of guys in motion, when you're able to have 1, 2, 3 fake handoffs in a play, those crazy viral plays that Sark have done. But to me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and I want to hear from you, it seems like A&M could potentially make their money on straight up drop back passes, where those have had a slightly lower success rate for Quinn in the Texas offense, where you're just dropping back third and long and you're making him read the defense and you're able to get some pressure on him. That seems like the spot. Obviously, with any team, you want to get him in third and long, but that seems like the one spot where the Sark offense isn't really at its best. Is that true? Does that feel right?
So I'm going to be very honest with you. Like Texas's offense, I mean, and this is true for almost any offense, and for all of the people here that are from my channel, they're going to hate me as I say the same thing almost weekly when it comes to games. But I'm just so big on winning on first downs, man.
Mm-hmm.
Being productive. I like, second medium, second short, and Sarkeesian. You can tell it's the same way because it feels like 70+% of our offense is based off play action. And
Yeah.
so you're not fooling anyone on 2nd and 14 or 3rd and 12 when you're running play action, when you have Quinn Ewers, this offensive line, and all the receivers we do. You're not just going to give away a down on 2nd and 14, maybe occasionally, but his run pass split is probably pretty one sided, I would bet, in those situations. So, yeah, I'd agree. A little bit of a struggle at times when Quinn has just done a straight drop back. So what does that mean? Okay, play action, a lot of times, your reads are condensed. You might just have one guy, two guy. You're reading just one guy to see how he reacts. You know exactly where your receiver is going to be. The run game is a big part of the Steve Sarkisian offense. So if Elko and A&M can do a good job on first and second down, that's the blueprint to success. That's how Texas has struggled before. That's how Georgia beat us into the mud. You know,
Yeah.
but if you mess around and let Sarkisian consistently have third and short or second and short, that's when things get really, really dangerous. And I will bring up this comment. I've done some homework a little bit. I'll let you guys go do your own because I don't want to sit here and say, sound like I'm predicting anything or say that it's even relevant today. But these guys do have a little bit of a history against each other as an OC and a DC. And it is a very one sided history. And it means nothing. Okay. I'm only saying that because you brought it up, but it means nothing on Saturday. Different coaches at this point, different teams, different programs. Um,
What's
literally,
their record against each other as OC and DC?
well, Saban. Wow. Sark was already at Texas when y'all beat Alabama. I believe Sark was 2-0 as the OC. Could be mistaken. I was just looking at
Yeah,
the
that's
year
right.
because I forget that he went to the Falcons and came back. But yeah, I do know. I just do know that. I mean, 2020 was rough on a lot of teams when Alabama offense got on the football field, but one of the better offenses we've ever seen.
They
But
had some tools. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good point. I haven't thought about that too much. There is some definite familiarity there. And yeah, man, that's going to be an absolute show, especially if A&M can play their best. But yeah, it does look like we're pretty vulnerable in the secondary. I, you know, Auburn has some good playmakers out there. Obviously not the best trigger man in the world, but he was still able to make us pay because
Right.
all year we've been pretty susceptible to play action and getting safeties to bite up quite a bit. And, that's a problem against Texas. So even Florida, that we look at that as a blowout, but in that second half, they started running a bunch of play action with not Lagway, with the you have to help me out, blinking on names, other quarterback at Florida, Graham Mertz.
Right.
And at that time of the year, he was more of, the stronger option there. He's a solid quarterback. And when they're running straight up play action, they were able to get us to bite and find a lot of daylight and complete a lot of passes on us. And I do worry about that. As good as I feel about our safeties, as good as I feel about their physicality and run support, and getting Dalton Brooks back mid-year really helped our run stop defense quite a bit. Very susceptible to play action, and we saw that several times, balls getting overheads against Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. It will get better under Elko, and that's where I think a lot of Aggies are kind of overreacting to this Auburn loss. And I hate to do this. This is awkward to tell you guys to chill out and trust your coach, because I don't want it to work out, but I feel really good about Mike Elko as the head coach at A&M.
100%.
And so many people on Twitter are just melting down, man. Like, if you guys would have told me that, which I mean, I predict you guys to be 9-2 going into this game, to be honest with you. But if they would have told you guys that y'all were where you're at, 8-3, with a chance to make the SEC title game heading again to Texas week, y'all would have taken it 10 out of 10 times. You wouldn't have complained at all. And most of you wouldn't have even complained if you lost a game, because obviously that right there in year one is impressive. And so y'all chill out. Now let me say this: play to win. Thank you for being here, brother. You better go throw a like on the channel if you're gonna dig us on the schedule, which is fair.
I was gonna do it too, so I'll let him take it.
I'll do the same thing, or I'm going to say the same thing I've said to everybody else. Like, we scheduled the Michigan game 10 years ago, or 7 years ago, and I think it was when it was actually scheduled. They won the national championship last year. It is not our fault, okay? It's not our fault. They decided to turn ass overnight. It is not our fault that they cheated as a program and had everything gutted, that Harbaugh left, that they have Sharon Morris sooner. Okay, this is why I'm calling Michigan ass. Okay, Sharon Moore is not the guy for Michigan. I'm just going to say that. And it's mostly because he's a center. He could work out. I don't know. But Texas went up there and beat them into an oblivion. We played one half of football. We didn't have to do anything in the second half. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. Go to Oklahoma. Same thing. People are like, you beat a shitty Oklahoma. Okay, I'm sorry. They've been incredible under Lincoln Riley. They won 10 games last year. I'm sorry that they nosedived and lost all their offensive line and had nothing prepared by week 7 when we played them. Nothing. Had nothing. 6, whatever week it was. Nothing. They were trash. And that is not our issue. They'll get better. Okay? They're going to be fine. They're Oklahoma. They always find a way. Not our fault. Now, if we would have struggled with Michigan, if we would have struggled with Oklahoma, if we would have struggled with Mississippi State for more than, a quarter and a half, which other teams have struggled a lot more with them, if we would have struggled with any of those teams, if we would have struggled with Kentucky or Florida, I know they didn't have DJ Lagway. If we struggle with any of those teams in there, I would say, hey, yeah, you make a good point. Okay, Ohio State beat Nebraska by 4. Penn State beat Minnesota by 1.
Finish that thought. I'm going to the restroom real quick.
I'll do your thing. My point is, man, is that we haven't struggled with anybody. So I'm sorry that we smoked a lot of crappy teams that were on our schedule. That's all we can do. All right, and so it is what it is. It's luckily for Texas, it's worked out the way that it has. We're going to make the college football playoff without, the number one strength of schedule. But you guys, I get it. We played some of the bottom teams in the SEC, but at the same time, there's a ton of parity. Arkansas, who we beat, has beaten a top 10 opponent. Kentucky, who we've beat, has beat a top 10 opponent on the road. And there's more in there, obviously. So Vanderbilt beat Alabama. And then I think there's one more. But yeah, so it's going to be a fun weekend, guys. Appreciate Drew doing this with us. Ranked wins to me right now doesn't mean a ton, okay? Because everybody's stumbling, everybody's finding a way to fall down. It's just survive and advance at this point. And I hate to say that, but that's the modern era of college football. All you want is a foot in the door come, December when playoffs time gets going, and it's a new season. And so whether you get in with 1 loss, 2 losses, 3 losses, whatever it is, you just want a foot in the door. And so with that being said, I'm going to say this, and I hope you guys agree. And I know it's completely off topic, but if I was on the playoff football committee, I would not leave headquarters and come selection day until South Carolina was a part of that field. I don't care. I've seen too many teams in the Big Ten. I've seen too many teams in the SEC, and I would take South Carolina heartbeat over several of them. And that's not a dig at you Aggies because they gave you all a hard time. I love the talent. I love what they have going on right there. So y'all think I'm crazy there or not? I think South Carolina's playoff worthy with 3 losses.
They look the part.
They do. They really do, man. I mean, they're a fun group to watch.
Look, here's what I'll say about scheduling. You may have said this when I was gone, but I mean, like you said, we schedule college football schedules years in advance, and all you can do about whatever gets put in front of you 7 years later is win and control your business, and y'all have done that. So what other outcome could there be? Like, what else could you ask for? Texas is obviously a really good team. Now, I will ask you this on that front. I mean, does the nature of the schedule have any impact on how you're playing later in the year? Is there any kind of, we haven't been through these gauntlets yet or these ringers yet? Does that have any kind of impact on how you're playing later in the year? Are there lessons you're not learning by not playing in as many of those games? I'll toot A&M's horn in these 2 losses, 2 annoyingly primetime away night games and annoyingly loud and respectable stadiums like South Carolina and Auburn. Is there anything to that, you think, not getting those lessons throughout the year?
Well, I mean, we haven't been in a big time night game SEC and road environment yet. So, I mean, that's one point you can bring up immediately. We have not seen anything like we're about to see. The big house was loud, 110,000 plus. They were pretty quiet after about 35 minutes of game time.
Yeah.
So it's like it's going to be different on the field there. I think that also when you're talking about really not having these games coming down to the wire, we have a lot of leftovers from last year. Playoff team. We lost our 2 close games, or both games we lost. We lost very close fashion, heartbreaking fashion. I think that I'm speaking more as a fan in this moment, Drew. I'm hoping that those lessons were learned then, and that they understand what it's like to be in a close game, be in a tough moment where everything hinges on one play and one moment. And so, what do I miss?
I hate A&M, but Drew has cake.
Oh,
we got a bakery up in here, man. I'm not gonna lie. It's just my mom. She passed down her baking skills, and they were clearly passed right to me. So that's just how it works here.
Well, there you go. But no, I mean, great comment there, Barnes. I definitely think that as you go into the year, depending on the team is key, because I don't know what exactly type of mindset this Texas team has.
Yeah.
Outside of the Georgia game, I mean, they've looked virtually incredible. I mean, which is great to say because like I said, while you were gone, Drew, we've whipped a lot of bad opponents. I mean, that is what it is. And we've whipped.
So you can do. That's what you do. Yeah.
You whip the bottom of the SEC. Now, at the same time, when you get into a closer games, which it's inevitable, you're very unlikely to just go whip everybody. There's so much parity in the game, and Georgia exposed us a little bit to show that, hey, and that's tough, man, because Georgia is a pretty big lesson. But at the same time, you don't get another top 10 opponent to go teach and show the world what you've learned from that lesson. And so we don't know exactly how Texas will respond. Golly. We don't know exactly how Texas will respond when they get back into a moment like that, situation in a big-time game. But I can't wait to find out, because we'll start finding out on Saturday. We'll find out. We know a lot about Texas. We're going to find out even more about Texas on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's a good point. A lot of your players are battle-hardened. They've been together a long time, especially that O-line, especially Quinn. A lot of these guys, I think, were probably either in the program not playing or just involved some capacity last year. So that's a good point that they can always lean on that experience. But do you have time to talk about the other side of the ball? We've gone over 40, 50 minutes now.
I've got about 10 more minutes. I'm doing an interview with a news station about how I got my Texas tickets, which is I don't know, man, weird life. But so I got about 10 minutes, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I'll be there too. So hopefully I get to see you. So what do you make of the A&M offense? What do you make of the progression of Marcel Reed? I think I've seen some progression for him as a quarterback. I think I've seen this offense learn what life without your most productive player in Le'Veon Moss is. I think there's obviously some deficiency there. I think Reed, can make a great play one play and have a wild ball the next play. I think that's there. But I think this last game versus Auburn, even in the loss, A&M's offense showed some life, showed that it's able to adapt to its new circumstances, now really kind of settling in on a single quarterback. And again, without your best weapon on the field. What do you make of it? I know Texas has one of the best looking defenses in the country. So what do you make of this challenge? And how does it compare with the rest of your schedule?
Well, so that's I love that late addition right there. So that's what I'm curious to see, man, because we have not seen a guy like Marcel Reed. Michael Hawkins was far, 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 far less developed as a passer when we saw him in Dallas in the Oklahoma game. And then you have Taylon Green. Okay, I'm not sure if Taylon Green was 100% healthy, but he still doesn't really move laterally. Not quite as twitchy as Marcel Reed. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Texas tackle Marcel in space. Obviously, everyone in Brainerd wants to see that. You guys hope the opposite comes true. But I'm curious to see how that plays out. And now Marcel, though, I do think Texas forces him to beat them with his arm. I don't think they'll let the legs of Marcel, similar to Michael Hawkins, similar to Taylon Green. They wipe those legs out very, very early in the game, and so the opportunities may be there for Marcel in the passing game. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be wide open windows that he's looking at, but he'll probably see a fair amount of man coverage, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to take the top off the defense a couple times. He throws a really pretty deep ball. I don't know what it is about it, but I mean, I will agree that I've seen improvement over with the last 3 weeks, ever since he kind of took over there.
Mm-hmm.
And as a passer, I think Woody's north of 60% completion percentage. He only has a 2-to-1 TD to interception ratio, but you don't really have to ask him to do a lot. When you have been able to run the football pretty well lately, Amari Daniels, I know, was he the one that dropped the pass? I'm not. Was
Yeah, it
he
was Amari.
okay? He's got some way unnecessary, or big time unnecessary flack on Twitter, man. That's a guy that
Yeah,
you have
it's
to have, a
unfortunate.
guy that you need to pick up in a moment like that. And hopefully he's not seeing a lot of the garbage that was spewed about him. And so
It's terrible.
I'm not saying I want him to have a big game, but I want Amari to have a good time on Saturday. That people were ridiculous about that.
Yeah, and with Amari, I think what Le'Veon really did well this year, because we knew Le'Veon had tools and we knew he had underrated speed, he had balance, he had forward drive. He didn't have patience. He didn't really have that flow that a running back develops kind of through experience. And I think we're still seeing Amari working on that and progressing through that, but he's come a long, long way. And I will say, Amari, as a get you 1-2 yards for a first down back, has improved. He's a whole other player than he was last year in that regard. And he does that really, really well. Our success rate, I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but for a significant portion of the year, our success rate on must get yard situations, whether it's a touchdown or a first down, was
Mhm.
100% for Amari. And it's not 100% now, but he's really, really good in that regard. He's come a long, long way. But there is a big drop off after Amari right now. It seems to be that way, at least in terms of a player who's ready to go now. But we're going to lean on the pass game. I think we showed that even versus New Mexico State, that this team is forcing the pass. They're forcing Reed to develop. They're forcing Reed to figure things out. And with Reed right now, I think there's still a little bit of, I don't know if it's fear of making a mistake. I don't know if it's a little bit of deer in the headlights at times. You sometimes get that with a young quarterback, but that is getting better. And I love that. Sometimes it's tough for him to just make that snap decision and, hit his first read and not get greedy. And sometimes he gets caught in no man's land and wants to run. And that's been getting better. So we like to see that from Marcel. The one thing is he's just not extremely consistent on his accuracy right now. A lot of balls high, a lot of balls low, but he makes up for it right now. He does enough to win you a game. And it's not a huge concern of mine going into this one. It would be Marcel and his just ability to quarterback a team to victory. It's going to be other parts of the team because I have a really good feeling about Marcel and his future here right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely pretty good. I'm a big fan of Colin Klein, and I think he'll do a good job with Marcel. Now, I mean, I got a little bit of worry about how Texas handles him because, I mean, when we commit a lot of bodies to the box and maybe, containing him, trying to keep him, inside of the pocket, he's still quick enough, man. If he breaks free, it can happen really,
Mhm.
really quickly. But ultimately, if I'm A&M, I'm trying to find ways to beat Texas on first down in the passing game consistently because I don't think you'll be able to do so in the run game, to be honest, just because I don't think Texas will allow you to do so. I mean, unless you're just straight running through people, because I think Texas is going to stick a lot of people around the line of scrimmage. Like I said, similar to the Oklahoma and the Arkansas games. Now, if y'all can consistently pick up first downs or win first down, second down, and have those opportunities, like you said, to let Amari Daniels kind of run and wear down a Texas defense a little bit, picking up the short yardage. Um, you know, first downs, man. I told you early, like people are
I
gonna make
agree,
fun of me
man.
on my show because I'm this game's massive as far as winning first downs. Y'all are going to become very predictable, in my opinion, if you're stuck in a lot of second and nine, second. I mean, that's the way it is most of the times.
Hmm.
But I don't think Colin Klein is just like I said. You don't want to punt a second down, trying again, and that's when it's going to become pass heavy already. So I think we'll see a lot of throwing on first down from both teams. Texas is going to run a ton of screens. That's what they do. Um, I don't know how Sark continues to come up with the different variations of screens that he runs, but I bet we see a lot of different screen action for Colin Klein in this game, a lot of quick hitters, some RPO type things,
Yeah,
mixed in with the occasional shot downfield. Um, he's
agreed.
going to take his chances.
Absolutely. I'm really happy with the progression of Colin Klein. Again, after losing some players, after having some mix-ups, after dealing with some O-line injuries, I think he's really made lemonade with what he's dealing with right now. And I was proud of the receivers' performance versus Auburn. I think they've gotten a lot of flack over the course of the year, maybe a little bit more than necessary because I think we were dealing with a lot of quarterback inconsistency in there too. And I think that was playing a big part in that. And I think receivers are starting to show what they have. And I mean, that's a good secondary I'll have. I'm excited to see that matchup because I've always thought this receiver group was underrated. Noah Thomas, Ja'Day Walker, big targets. Ja'Day, an athletic target. Those guys can get jump balls, win ones on one-on-ones. They can move bodies with the ball in their hand. I'm excited to see it. I don't know if we'll win it, but I'm excited to get tested in that regard.
Yeah, and that's something that I think A&M will try and test out a little bit. Texas has had a fantastic cornerback duo this year, probably the best in the country, to be honest. Um, I should say that with my chest. It is the best cornerback duo in the country between Ja'Day Barron and Malik Muhammad. And people just, I feel like they don't even try to throw at Malik anymore. And so that's why Ja'Day is over there and he's getting turnover every week because he's always the beneficiary of the ball being around him. But
Yeah.
A&M's got a couple big guys. Noah Thomas is a big body. I'd be really curious, or I'd be pretty surprised if A&M does not take a couple of chances just throwing up jump balls. Maybe whether it be 15-yard back shoulder fades where they're letting this guy go up and make a play. Whatever you can do, okay? Because Texas isn't going to get you, just let you run wide open throughout the field very, very rarely, at least so far in the year. So I do think as well you do have an underrated wide receiving core. Everyone, I mean, we're going to see it, dude. We're going to see everything in this game. A&M's going to lay it all out there. Texas is going to lay it all out there.
I'm excited for the wrinkles, man. I'm excited for what both teams have kind of kept up their sleeves for the last one, especially us with everything on kind of riding on this game.
Absolutely, man. It means a ton to both teams, and this is a playoff game for A&M. And which better first round of the playoffs to have than the Lonestar Showdown, coming back after being dormant for 13 years.
Couldn't
So
have scripted it better, man. That's incredible.
welcome back to the Rivalry, guys. It is time to get it going, just to get through the work week, and we'll be back on, guys. And Drew, thank you for doing this. I really wish we could go longer. Feel like we could do this all night, but thank you for being here in the comments, guys. Throw a like on the video. Appreciate you for throwing this on your channel as well, Drew. Getting all your friends over here means a lot for y'all to check us out. Any parting words, my man?
No, man. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this all year. I've been looking forward to talking to you this game week, and it's here, man. We finally get to actually put the trash talk onto the field. It's been a long time coming. I couldn't be more excited for it.
Absolutely, guys. Well, y'all have a good rest of your evening. If you missed part of it, just go back and rewatch when you can. A lot of good stuff in here with Drew. We talked about some of his favorite memories of this game, kind of how he got into this rivalry, what he thinks of Texas players, who he likes, maybe what coaches he respects. But check it all out. Y'all have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see y'all next time.